Hello and welcome to part 2 of Touring England. Your hosts are Ted and Janet, or also known as Gardener Ted and JQ Rose. Thanks so much for being with us today and taking a little tour to the Cotswolds in England. This map of England shows a shaded area there in green, and that is the region known as the Cotswolds. We picked up our rental car at the airport and headed out to the fresh air of the Cotswold countryside. We really enjoyed getting away from London and all the traffic. This countryside includes the dry stone walls and 3,000 miles of public footpaths. You'll never run out of lovely trails to explore when visiting here. The Cotswold area of rolling hills and ancient villages and towns where time has stood still for centuries is a protected landscape rolling across several counties. Notice we are driving on the left side of the road. And see how the hedges and grasses are so close to the edge of the road? We had quite a collection of greenery caught in my side mirror. Our destination is Avebury, a small quiet town with not very many tourists. We're here to see the Stone Circle. You've probably heard of Stonehenge. But did you know there are 1,000 known circles in the British Isles, with many still yet to be discovered? Unlike Stonehenge, this site, in fact larger than the famous circle, is open to the public. You can touch and walk among the stones, and rather than the fenced-in Stonehenge where you can't even get close. I placed my hand on the stones that had been placed here by ancient people in 5000 to 3000 BC. I was overcome with the feeling of connection through these ages as I felt the rocky surface and reached through time. It was a moving experience. I had to dodge the grazing sheep to move through the field there and get to the stones. Raising sheep is still an important farming activity and a common sight through the Cotswolds. In fact, most of the Cotswold landscape is agricultural, where farmers grow principal crops of barley, beans, and wheat. This thatch-roofed barn was right next to the field where the stones and the pretty sheep were. I believe this barn belonged to the farmer that owned the sheep. Thatched roofs and stone walls are all over this area. We walked across the street to this friendly pub in Avebury, and probably the only pub there. We'd learned that most pubs do not have table service, so we went right to the bar to order our fish and chips. Luckily, we sat down with a couple from the area who clued us in as to why they love this quiet countryside. We met many friendly people in England, and we fielded a lot of questions about President Trump. These buildings are on the main street of Avebury, and if you follow the 2-lane road past the restaurant, you'll be in downtown area, which is only about 2 blocks long. Home across from the restaurant is constructed of limestone, a prolific building material used over several centuries for the construction of ancient homes and villages. This is the window in the front of the building, and the strikingly beautiful flowers were planted in the front yard. Just a perfect picture. And of course, the flowers had on their best dress because It was June when we visited. This small chapel was right across from that pretty building, that pretty home, and it was all locked up, so I couldn't get in there. But I did walk around to the back, where there was a delightful garden. The garden backed right up to the stone circle. Our lodgings for the next few nights were quite a contrast to that small, cramped room we had in London. This country manor house was near the town of Detortworth, set in a beautiful setting of many trees. I felt like a Victorian gentlewoman as we drove up the drive to this beautiful place. The next morning we set out to visit the sights of the region. I was so lucky I wasn't driving, so I could enjoy all the scenery. But Ted, on the other hand, had to negotiate these narrow, curvy roads, the Sunday traffic, and change gears with his left hand. The delightful towns and villages were like all the tourist company photos had come to life. Picturesque, charming, cozy are all ways of describing the sights. We stopped at several places to explore the lovely flower garden and shops in the business area. Here's a beautiful spot in one of the villages we visited, and of course built with the limestone stones. Oh, and it was so peaceful when we arrived because it's early Sunday morning, but eventually the hordes of visitors would be coming too. I experienced tasting my first scone with clotted cream and English tea. So delicious. Clotted cream is not cream cheese or whipped cream. It isn't whipped, and it is 55% butter fat. I glopped on that cream and added strawberry jelly. My mouth waters just thinking about it. I was amazed at the stone walls that hugged the contours of the rolling hills. To think of the labor needed to cut and fit miles and miles of these walls. The panorama of the fields and walls covered acres and acres. This marketplace has been a center for this city for over 300 years. We walked to a little cafe and had tea and coffee in a quaint garden behind the building. It was so relaxing and pleasant. We enjoyed our exploration of this gorgeous area, and I hope you enjoyed the visit too. But it was time to say toodle pip to the manor house and the Cotswolds, looking forward to visiting the largest county in England, Yorkshire, where we will meet in person my English author friend Helena, who lives there. Please join us as Helena is our tour guide for another magnificent adventure in England.